yin is not the feminine, just as yang is not the masculine. I don't know where that was developed. What I can tell you about yin is that yin is all about integration, connectedness, interdependence. And yang is the opposite. It's all about separation, hierarchy. The reason why this is important to me is because this is a cycle. So you've got yin and yang are cycles that occur over each cycle lasts between 4,800 and 5,200 years. The power, spiritual power itself, flows through either the yang or the yin. And so if you're in a yang era and you've built a life or a organization on a foundation of yang, you'll flourish. You'll do very well. You can develop a personal relationship to God. You don't need to go through another to acquire that relationship with God. Unfortunately, what happens is that structures that are built on a yang foundation are no longer receiving power during a yin era. So you'll see that all these structures, all of the people that are adhering to or forcing themselves or their organizations to adhere to the dynamics of separation and independence, hierarchy, all those will fail. If you want to succeed, success will come through integration. In other words, you can't, in the yin, have an organization that is being pushed forward by a sole individual. The group must move the group forward. So this means that the benefit, the profit that's acquired is for and by the group. Yin, in a military sense, yin is terrorism. There's a blending in. There's no real hierarchy. There's no real leader. So this puts us at a great disadvantage if we're trying to, compete or overwhelm a yin enterprise through conventional or yang strategy or dynamic. Israel entering into Lebanon to rout out the Hezbollah, which is a yin organization, failed because of that. I don't know how long it'll take for our leaders to recognize that fighting or trying to apprehend a yin enemy will fail until they operate from a yin standpoint. So the best chances of America has at defeating terrorism, technically, if what I'm saying is accurate, is through aligning or allying with other countries. Not the whole go it alone thing is just going to be disastrous. If we try that again, it doesn't work. The other thing that's really important and a great difference between yang and yin is that in the yang, you could jump into a project and jump out, no harm, no foul. In the yin, that's not possible. if you commit to somebody, if you commit to an organization, that entity will drag you through it to fruition. You won't be able to just abandon it and adopt some other, project in its place. And it's true on a physical level also. Cancers that develop in the yang are quite different than cancers that develop in the yin. The cancer will have to fulfill its fruition point. It must. Everything's interdependent now. So you can't extricate any one thing from the whole and have success or profit from that. It'll illuminate process. It should illuminate process opposed to picking out events from a process and then hierarchically assigning them attributes of importance. So in one sense, time is a yang concept and space is a yin concept. On an individual level, one of the things that I want to say is that the brain has two primary ways of perceiving reality. And I just term them yin and yang because it just makes sense right now. In terms of what I've learned so far, the one half of the brain or nature of the brain is to break everything down into parts, which we've been doing for quite a while. And eventually, it's led in physics to, well, we can't successfully study a part of a whole and understand it fully. And of course, the whole is, it's humongous, compared to normal. I mean, depending upon what you're studying, but it's huge. Consider that every part is part of a whole, and that whole is part of a whole. So this is really important. The particle wave issue, and I'm not really familiar with physics that much. I only approach physics through the spiritual. But that duality, the particle wave duality, it can serve as another example of particularizing self, having the self manifest in our consciousness as many parts, or viewing self as a whole organism. So just like all the organs in my body are separate, in a sense, they're not. They don't function independently of each other. Nature doesn't function independently of itself. So you can't alter one aspect of nature fundamentally and have it not impact the rest of nature fundamentally. And we're experiencing the results of all this behavior now. There will be those that, in my view, will continue to fight for the preservation of the yang structures, the economic yang structure, the commercial yang structure, the political yang structure, the religious yang structures, where the mind operates isolated from other minds, that beliefs are pitted against each other. There's great contradiction, because we have yet to really bring all of these parts down on into a simple level where they're all perceived as basically the same thing. So I can list acceptance, forgiveness, charity, listening to others. These are all unifying principles. Fear is a divisive principle in a way. Anything that's divisive will cause trouble, you can't receive in division. So if you're giving, have to really understand your real primary motivation for giving. Because if the form that you're giving takes shape is in any way divisive, it'll prevent you from receiving because you're not connected. So the yin is all about connection. It's all about integration, working as a whole. And you can see the conflict that it's developing. Descartes, and maybe some others at the time, came up with this new idea. See, prior to this new philosophy, which I think is called the Cartesian split, there was not two separate terms that identified spiritual. So we didn't have a division up until about 800 years ago between material and spiritual. They were considered the same thing. If you look back, if you want examples of the yin and yang, you can see it as it has manifested in our culture. So if you look back plus 5,000 years ago, you'll see manifestations of the yin, especially in paganism. And again, I'm not that familiar with the history of religions, but paganism is an accurate example of yin manifesting in our society. Paganism is often represented through multiple, aspects of nature which symbolize, the world or God. So you'll have basically in the yin, you'll have the many representing the one. In the advent of yang, you have the one representing the many. You have the one Savior, the only one true Son of God that comes to bring all to salvation. It's just opposite in the yin. It's really important to, I think, understand how this stuff works, especially when you're creating in the yin. So my recommendation, if somebody, and they have, comes to me and says, well, what do you propose that I do? I want to start a business and I want to be able to be successful and self-supporting, etc. I'm just like, don't start a project like that solely for your benefit. Start an organization where the group, the people involved also want to, that they agree that they have the same goals and they're willing to work together to accomplish those goals. But chances are people are going to continue to manifest the model that they've been taught, because so far it's been fairly successful and there has yet to be a real collapse. It's on its way. And you'll see it first in smaller organizations and in people. People that are stubborn and isolated and unwilling to connect with others will start to suffer. They'll start to deteriorate. And the only other thing that I want to include in this is what I failed to mention in the other work is that the principle, which I believe is true, is stated as saying anything that is created in darkness will return to darkness. So your relationship to another individual or alcohol or sex or whatever, if you create it on a foundation of darkness, in the illusion world, it'll always return you to darkness anytime that you re-engage it.